Lots of problems that we run into in application involve spacing. Here's a problem about a fence that needs to be made. All right, so we've got a fence. We've got there's a post here, and we're going to space out these boards in between. All right, and so we notice that there are, let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 boards. So we have 10 boards. All right, and the 10 boards are filling up this spacing. Now, so the 10 boards, which we know their width is 3 3/4. Okay, so we have 10 times 3 3/4. Now we're going to work with some fractions here. And so there's a couple ways we can go. We could change everything to decimal and then convert it back. But let's see how we can multiply with fractions. All right, now fractions, once you get the hang of it, really can be make things easier, because decimals get really ugly and you just have to go to a calculator. But fractions make it so that we can do a lot of work without even a calculator. Okay, now watch this. Yeah, we've all worked with fractions, some hopefully, and here we have 3 3/4. We read it as 3 3/4. So think of this. Here's one nice way to think of this. Think of this as 10 times 3 and, so 3 and, we'll have 3 plus 3/4. Okay, it's like $3 whole plus 3/4, like 75 cents. Well, we know from algebra that we can distribute here, okay? So when we have 10 times 3, that's going to be 30. 10 times 3/4, well, let me write this off to the side. 10 times 3/4, that's just like 10 over 1 times 3/4. And multiplying, remember when we multiply straight across. That's 30 over 4, right? So we have 10 and 3/4. Now, when you get the hang of this, you don't actually have to write this plus. See, this is just 30 and 3/4, okay? Oops, I didn't multiply that, did I? 10 times 3/4 is 34. Okay. Well, let's now just clean that up. Okay, 34, well, 4 goes into 37 times, because 7 times 4 is 28. Okay, so this is 7 and 2 left over, 7 and 2/4. All right, we convert that improper fraction to a mixed number. All right, so this is 37 and 2/4, or 1/2. We'll simplify that fraction there. Okay, so this is, and I should have labeled this to start off, these are the total of the boards. Right, so all the boards together, if we were to scooch them together, would be 37.5 inches, but we have 44 3/8. So all of these spaces in between have to make up the difference. All right, so we have 44 3/8 is the boards and the space. So let's find the total space, the leftover space when we take out all those boards. Okay, so all of these in between marks here. Okay, what is the total of all those? So the total space here, well, we had, between the posts, we have 44 3/8, and we'll take away 37.5. All right, so some more little fraction work here. Okay, so we're reviewing some fraction things. Okay, so first of all, we need a common denominator. So let's change this 1/2 to 3/8. All right, so we have 44 3/8 minus 37 4/8. Okay, now we have 3/8. Okay, we want to subtract or get rid of 37 4/8. Uh-oh. Well, think about this. You know, if you had some quarters and $1, so you got 2 quarters, let's say, and $1, and you want to, you owe me 3/4. You owe me 75 cents. Pay up. I want my money right now, but you don't have it. Well, really, you don't have the quarters, right? Now, you owe me 3/4. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to take this dollar here and you're going to swap it out for some quarters, right? You're going to take that dollar there and say, all right, I'll take the dollar and change it into 4 quarters, and now you can pay me my 3 quarters, and you have some left over, all right? Mine. So that's the idea, okay? So what does that mean for us here? Well, we have 44 and 3/8, and we need to subtract 37 and 4/8. Well, how do we do that? Well, I need to change the way this looks. I need to take one of these, and I need to change this into 43, and I'm going to get some extra 8s. Well, how many 8s can you get for this extra 1? We're going to take a 1. Well, 1 is 8/8. Okay, 8/8. We already had 3/8. So 8/8 and 3/8 is going to be 3 plus 8 is 11/8. Now I got 11/8. Now the idea is we can subtract the whole numbers. We can also subtract the 8s. Remember, we got to have common denominators, which we already did. We changed it to 8s. So that's great. Well, 43 minus 37, that's 6. And then if you have 11/8, you take 4 of those 8s away. You subtract them because you owe me some 8s. You're going to have 7/8. Okay, so we're reviewing lots of fraction stuff here. Okay, and you got to keep track of what we're doing. So notice I've labeled these things. This is our total of all the boards, and we subtracted that, got the total of all the space. All right, so now let's go ahead and figure out what one space would be. Now, remember we had 10 boards, but how many spaces do we have, or how many gaps? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, so we have 11 gaps. So notice we have one more gap than we had holes there, okay? Now, so we're doing a lot with the fractions here, and it's good practice. Sometimes we'll just convert these to decimals, but let's stick with it and see if we can finish it off. We have 11 gaps, so let's figure out one gap or one space. How do we do that? Well, we've got 6 and 7/8, and we're going to divide that by 11. Okay, so some things to remember here. Dividing by 11, or 11 over 1, is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. All right, now, it's probably been a long time since you've done this, maybe. But when we're dividing by fractions, it's good to remember here, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. Okay? We just flip a reciprocal means we flip that 11 over 1, make it 1/11. So multiplying by 1/11 is the same as dividing by 11. Now, this is going to turn out pretty nice, all right? And I'll show you why here. And we're just going to be in luck because if we make this into an improper fraction, now how do we do that? Well, we have 6/8, or we have 6 holes. And if we have 6 holes and we want to change this all to 8s, we can do 6 times 8. We can multiply that there, 6 times 8. And then we can add the 7. So to make this, we're going to do 6 times 8. We're going to kind of work our way around here. Okay, 6 times 8, because we have everything's in 8s. So 6 times 8 is 48, plus the 7 is 55. So this is the same as 55/8. Okay, and so we're going to multiply this by 11, or we're going to multiply by 1/11, that is, or divide by 11. Well, what that really is going to do in this case is it's going to make it multiply straight across. This is 55 over 88. We multiply straight across when we multiply. And now 11 goes into those, so let's divide by 11. We get 5/8. Okay, so it comes out to exactly 5/8. Well, in the next problem, we'll see how we can change it into a decimal and make life a little easier. So here we could have changed it to a decimal up at the beginning, but that was good fraction practice, okay? All right, so what can we do here? So similar situation. Here we have some holes cut out of a block here, all right? And so we have 8 gaps between the circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 circles. So we have 7 holes, all right? And in between the holes are these spaces, these gaps here, okay? And we want to find out what those gaps are. Once we can find out what that is, let's call that G. So we have 8 gaps. We want them all to be the same size. That's the key. Well, to do that, we're going to have to figure out how much metal. I think this is made out of metal, it looks like. Going to figure out how much metal is left when we take away the holes. Now, the 7 holes have a radius. Radius is from the center to the outside. Then the diameter is 2 times that. Okay, we're going to go with some decimals now. Okay, so let's change this radius to a decimal. And the way we do that is we take 9 divided by 16. And when we do 9 divided by 16, we're going to get 0.5625. All right? So that's the radius. Now the diameter, those are inches, by the way. And we're going to double that. So we double that and we get 1.125. So that is the distance across here, 1.125. All right? Now, all of these radius, all the holes are the same, okay? So we need to take this total distance and subtract all the holes off there. Now, since we're going decimals, let's go ahead and change this, okay? To convert the fraction, we're going to 7 divided by 8, that's 7/8. 7/8 is just 7 divided by 8, which is 0.875. So this is 16.875 inches. Okay? So we're going to take that 16.875, and we want to find the total of all the gaps. Okay? So first thing we've got to find is the total gaps. Okay, so we're going to take the total distance across and subtract the 7 holes here, okay? And the holes each have a diameter of 1.125. And we're going to let our calculator do the work here, all right? So the diameter of the holes is 1.125. So we're subtracting these 7 blue lines there, and we'll be left with the red lines, all right? And when we do that, that comes out pretty nice. And in a scientific calculator, you can just type it all in. Now, if your calculator doesn't display this, you have what's called a one-line calculator. Then if you don't, you'll have to do 7 times 1.125, write that number down and subtract it from 16. Okay, however, if you get a good one-line calculator or multiple line calculator like this, it's going to show multiple lines here. Then this scientific calculator can figure out that that's 9. That's great. So we get 9. 9 is the total gaps. Well, how many gaps do we want? We want 1 gap. Well, we're going to have 9 divided by, we have 8 gaps. 8. Now, the good news is, when we say 9 divided by 8, well, look when we write it this way, without the classical division sign, 9 divided by 8 means 9 over 8, which look at what that is. That's a fraction. That's 9/8. 9/8 is actually the answer. Now we might want to, since the top number is bigger than the bottom number, we can make it into a mixed number. 8 goes into 9 ones. Okay, and we're left with 1 after we divide it. Divide the 1 remainder there, okay? Now, we could have gone here, and we can also say, well, what is 9 divided by 8? Okay, notice this Desmos calculator even writes it as a fraction because division means a fraction. All right, so that's the idea. All right, 1.125 or 1 1/8. Okay, so, and we're not going to be too picky about things as far as using fractions and decimals right now. So a lot of times it's just easier and sometimes a little more accurate if we just use a calculator with fractions there. All right, but the process again is we take the whole distance, we subtract off the boards in this case, or we subtract off the holes, and then because we're trying to find out how much one of these spaces or one of these gaps would be. So the same process in two different situations.